think that we are also sort of fighting a misconception that gender is somehow determined by or on, or I guess determined by the body parts that you have, and we know that that's just not true.
What about intersex individuals?
I don't even know what that means, ma'am.
That was confusing. Brought it to my pediatrician, and all she said was, "Yep, those are boobs. Anyways, have fun at school."
About where do intersex people fall into that equation?
Yeah, those intersex individuals are still XX or XY, so you can't change that.
That people try to use the argument that, those intersex conditions don't really exist. It's like, they do. They absolutely do.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
It affects all of us because what ends up happening is that it means that anybody's gender can be called into question.
It's 46XX/XY chimerism. What that means is I have two sets of DNA. It's kind of what happened. I'm sure you've probably heard of I ate my twin in the womb. This is what happens when you don't eat your twin. Your twin gets absorbed into you, and then the cells are incorporated.
I am the director of engagement here at Interact, and I don't know how much you know about Interact, but I guess for the purposes of the documentary, I'll say that we are a national intersex advocacy organization. We have been doing this work since 2006. We're primarily law and policy. That's primarily what we do here. We also do a lot of work to make sure that intersex people are accurately and appropriately represented in the media.
I definitely had a confusing childhood. I often had really bad stomach cramps when I was a kid. I never really knew what they were from until more recently. But I would get sent to the nurse's office all the time, and because there was nothing externally visible, it was just seen as, oh, you're faking it. And that was when I reached about 10 or 11, I started growing breasts. You go to school and they give you the talk about, oh, you're gonna grow taller and hairy and muscular. And then I grew boobs. That was confusing.
A lot of us grew up being made to feel like we are alone and that there's no other people out there like us. And for me personally, to be honest, as a child, the only other intersex person that I really knew lived in the UK. I met them on probably a forum. My intersex variation is congenital adrenal hyperplasia, or CAH, and so I think I met them through a support group forum. And so we were pen pals. We would just send emails back and forth. And so, CAH is one of the more common intersex variations, but the only other person I knew lived in an entirely different continent.
I had one provider that was really great. I had a couple providers that were okay. And I've definitely, in trying to get this all figured out, had a number of providers that were just downright awful. I went in after starting my periods for a pelvic ultrasound, and the technician was freaking out, like, wow, there's so much there that isn't supposed to be there. And she took, pictures and measurements and stuff like that of what was there. And in the final report, the urologist, who was dealing with that, labeled it as nothing wrong at all. And as soon as my provider, this was a really, really great provider, as soon as she got her hands on the images, she was like, that's medical malpractice, because even I can see there's definitely stuff there that isn't normally there. And that explains a lot.
Especially in the US, intersex is still mostly seen through a medical lens. And so it's seen as an issue that needs to be fixed medically. And it's not seen for what it is, which is a human rights violation, or it's a human rights issue. And intersex people are experiencing human rights violations when we think about things like early childhood, non-consensual medical interventions that are often performed on intersex children before they're able to meaningfully participate in the conversations, because these procedures that are happening on the children are often done before the age of 2. And so they're not able to give informed consent. And so, I think that we, for decades, have left it up to the doctors and to parents to make assumptions about what a child's eventual gender identity and what a child's eventual sexuality is going to be. And I feel like, especially when we consider the fact that many of these procedures have high complication rates, they require sometimes multiple follow-up medical interventions to sometimes correct an earlier surgery. The risk is so high.
A lot of the medical industry just glasses over intersex stuff. Like, they don't teach it very much unless you go and specialize in like endocrinology. Most doctors are not going to have heard of a lot of that stuff. Primary care doctors are going to be hesitant to believe you about it because they didn't learn about it. And even when you do get testing done, it used to be considered a cognitohazard, meaning that, back 50 to 100 years ago, doctors wouldn't tell you if they picked up on that as a result. Like, say you got diagnosed with, let's just assume androgen insensitivity. Like complete androgen insensitivity. And you've been trying for kids, go to a doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, this is why. You don't actually have ovaries. But the doctor wouldn't tell you that. The doctor would just say, looks like you're infertile.
You'll hear a lot of the parents say things like, oh, well, my child's not intersex. She is a quote unquote real girl because she has XX chromosomes and because she can conceive. And so, in their mind, and I think honestly still in society, that is how we define womanhood. And so, it's really challenging because these are the folks that we're going up against. And people ask, because Interact, like I mentioned, we're a law and policy organization. They want to know, well, why don't we have any laws against these surgeries? We have laws against FGM. We have laws against sterilization. What about the intersex kids? And we've tried to pass legislation in states like California. We were not successful, and we're going up against these medical institutions and these these lobbying groups, and unfortunately they have a lot of capital.
I am definitely stockpiling hormones because even as an intersex person, I do need hormones to live. Without that, it's not great. You're looking at conditions like osteoporosis because your body doesn't have enough one or the other sex hormone, or things and changes might happen to your body that you are really not okay with. And it is classified and billed through insurance as gender affirming care a lot of the time. And banning gender-affirming care on a state or federal level would absolutely, I mean, there are so many intersex people that need those to survive because it's not a choice. It's not something that you can stop. It's a medical condition.
So when we think about a lot of these anti-trans bills, a lot of them do have very anti-trans healthcare bans that have very specific cutouts for surgeries being performed on intersex children. And so they're being very intentional about it.
Asking what our lived experience is with it is a good place to start because it's often very different. Also, definitely being respectful in asking questions. Like me personally, I'm an open book, hence why I'm doing this interview. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are very shy, very do not want to talk about anything related to it with people that they think might not understand. So definitely being respectful about any questions you do ask and not just assuming that, you know, like I said, that intersex people have both sets of parts or that, I mean, for a lot of conditions, there's definitely some serious side effects. Cancer being one of them, hormone imbalances, problems, autoimmune conditions are typically comorbid with intersex conditions. So not just assuming that everybody is having the time of their life being intersex.
I would say get connected to community, whether you're a parent of an intersex child or you're an intersex person yourself, trying to navigate the world. It's likely if you're in either of those groups, you have a lot of questions and you will likely find a lot of those answers in community with other people. I think I can't stress enough how life-saving being connected to community has been for me and so many of my peers. There is an intersex peer support organization for intersex people and their families. It's called Interconnect, and they've been around since the 90s. And as I mentioned, Interact also has a peer support program for intersex youth. So if you're an intersex young person, and even if you're not sure if you are intersex, think you might be, but you haven't gotten a diagnosis because, you know, sometimes a lot of these tests are expensive. I just want people to know we are not gatekeeping over here. We are not asking for diagnosis. We want this to be a community that if people feel like it's the community for them, we're here for you. And so I know that some people feel differently about that, but we try to be inclusive and acknowledge that sometimes it costs a lot of money and cost is a barrier to getting genetic testing and things like that done, especially with the healthcare system in our country. The community is here if you feel like it's for you. So please feel free to get connected.
And yeah, I was scared, but if I had known about it, I would have been a lot less scared, rather than just being kept in the complete dark about whatever was going on and having decisions made behind my back that I didn't want. So definitely having those conversations where you can ensure your child is confident and feels safe and knows that they're going to be loved and accepted. And also that things are going to be okay. That would have helped me out a lot.